Alright guys, what is up? It's the Manga, and today we're going to be talking about Week 2 of the Overwatch League. So excited. Week 1 was obviously insane, and the matches this week, they're not as bombastic, but exciting times. We have 5 new teams debuting in the Overwatch League this weekend. We got a 3 in NA, 2 in APAC. In NA, we have Paris, Washington, and Boston Uprising. In APAC, we have 2 teams, Hangzhou Spark and New York Excelsior. They're making their big debuts, and it's going to be really great. I'll say this, last week in my pick'em predictions, I did absolutely terrible. I had 14 points. Pretty brutal. Not gonna lie, I'm last place in my friend's leaderboard. But you know what? Whatever. It's fine. If there's going to be any moral of this weekend, it's going to be people can make comebacks. You know, we're going to prove people wrong, and it's going to be great. So you know what? Let's talk about our predictions and observations for Week 2. I want to start today's video with a question. You know, you ever had someone in your life, it could be a friend in your personal life or a coworker, you ever had someone in your life that just makes things easier? Maybe they do something that no one else wants to do, or maybe they're just so good at something that they take care of it and you don't even have to think about it twice. You let them take care of what they do, and it's just one less thing on your mind. If you've ever had someone like that in your life, for example, I have a friend who loves to plan. She loves to plan. She loves to be the alpha. She likes to be the one to be like, we're gonna do this. Everyone meet here. Make sure you bring this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna be here at this time. She has, you know, not always a schedule, but she's the one who makes the decisions. And as a friend, I love it because I'm pretty laissez-faire. I like going with the flow. I don't necessarily need to plan. So having someone who's willing to do that part, you know, it fits, and you know, it's comfortable, it feels nice, and you know, it's like being on a team. It's like everyone has their job, and if someone does their job so well and you don't have to worry about that as a factor, then that's amazing. And then when you don't have that person anymore in your office or in your life, you really start to feel it. You realize how much pressure is on you now to take care of those things. And I think it happens, and it's important in life, and I think it's really important in sports, especially in the Overwatch League. And with these teams, what we're seeing now is a lot of players have branched off from their comfort zones. We've had a few players who either they left their comfort zone, their pre-built team that they've had success with, or their teammates left, and then their management decided, hey, let's build around this guy alone. And we're seeing that with the Overwatch League teams this year, and I think that's going to be a trend we see this weekend. You got players like Moth and Jonak. Like they're kind of like the opposite pairs here. You have Fury, who left Philadelphia. All these players are seeking. You know, some of them have had success. Moth's won championships already, so now it's a question of ego. Because let's face it, anyone who's at the top of their field, they're gonna have an ego, no matter what they say or do. You know, everyone wants to think they're the X factor. Everyone wants to believe that at their workplace or wherever, you know, they'll always say, it's like, you know what, this place wouldn't be shit if it wasn't for me. I'm the one that makes these things happen. I make the wheels turn. And you know, and it's natural, and that's completely cool. You know, I like people, like, you know, you like to have people who have pride in what they do and believe in their abilities, but you know, there's no X's factor. You don't say they're the X's factor. There's one X factor on anything, and I strongly believe that. Everyone wants to think they're the X factor, but there truly is always is one person that holds the glue together, and a lot of these players are trying to see if they're the guy. Jonak, I think Jonak's gonna be curious. We're gonna talk about it in a little bit, but Jonak, is he the guy? He had mono for however many years, and he doesn't have him anymore. He had a whole core of players around him that were all great, and he doesn't have that anymore. Moth won championships, and now he's like, let me see if I can do it on my own. And lead this team. So I think that's going to be a really fun trend, especially early on in the season. I think it's going to be a really big test for a lot of players to see if they're worth the money that they're asking for. And you know, at the end of the day, that's what we talk about when we talk about athletes, esports, or regular traditional sports. What's your value? And if you think your value is more than what it actually is, it's going to reflect in your results, and that's going to affect in your paycheck. So it's going to be an interesting story to see as we move along. Okay, so the first team I want to talk about is LA Gladiators. You know, I was high on them in my power rankings. I was high on them for week 1. They didn't look great. They really didn't. They had some deep issues in their teamwork. But you know what? That's okay. I'm not going to sell my stock on Gladiators. I think they'll be way improved this week. They have the unfortunate luck of going against two really great teams, Shock and Dallas. You know, that you have to take that into context. Context means everything, especially in sports. So they went up against the best competition, and they looked like a team that had a new main tank, and a whole new support line. Everything was new. So I think overreacting to them isn't really worth it. Give them time. Well, like what? What is everyone saying? Their players are great, but they don't have coordination. Of course, they don't have great coordination. Most of their team is new. Like seriously, it's crazy. Like half their team is even Moth wasn't even playing that much. They not only didn't play Moth much, they added another person in the factor. So that's less time for people to get time to gel. So let's not sell our stocks yet. Muse will have some time. They have a little bit easier competition this week. So I think they'll be just fine, honestly. It says a lot about early on, especially a coach like Deepay, who's known for being very experimental. And some people think he's not a great coach. I think he's actually a pretty good coach. I wouldn't call him top tier yet, but there's something to be said about you've seen Gladiators be one of the innovators every year of trying new strats or trying to be more aggressive in certain spots. And I really appreciate that. They came out swinging with a week 1 Bastion. How crazy is that? And you know what? If there's any time to experiment, this is the time. And my big criticism for Gladiators was they looked. A lot of people have been saying that they looked undisciplined. They looked not coordinated, and that's probably because they're trying different comps. So I think this week, hopefully, they took the week to learn to go over tape, learn how to communicate, and I hope that this week they try to focus on less variety on comps and just more solid play. They look pretty good at the double bubble Zarya here that you're watching on the screen right now. They look pretty good at that, so maybe they'll just pick that and just go with it. But don't worry about the Gladiators just yet. But I hope to see Moth in the lineup more. I think Moth is a big player to play. And, you know, if he's as good as I thought he made the Shock, I thought he had a lot of value on the Shock. If he's as good as he's supposed to be, then I think they'll put him in the lineup a little bit more. And I think he just needs to be a leader. I know everyone says he's a quiet guy. You know, he's not a vocal guy. If you watch his streams, you know he's not exactly vocal. But I think for this team, I think he has to take a leadership role. They're in that position where they need a veteran presence, and he's one of the biggest ones. So I think Gladiators, we're going to look improved. Muse will look way better. I think Muse might be able to flash some of his talents. Speaking of Gladiators competition, a team they're playing on their first match of the week, I think is my sleeper team for the 2021 Overwatch League season. It is the London Spitfire. I think this team could be sneakily good because do you know how hard it is to get team synergy? That's just like a hard thing. That's something that it's hard to teach and it's hard to gain. So San Francisco Shock took a year for them to get their team synergy down. They had a lot of people on the roster season 1. It took them a year to kind of fix themselves. And London Spitfire is coming in like Vancouver Titans in 2019. They're coming in with a team where 4 of their 6 starting lineup have played together for at least a year. And that is something that is so valuable. And it's absolutely insane. And props to the London Spitfire management team for just deciding, you know what? We have a contenders team, the British Earth team. We had a contenders team with a roster that won 31 games in a row, at least. They might have even expanded that record, but they broke the Fusion University's record in contenders for most matches won in a row. And you know what? I don't care that it's contenders. A lot of the good players have come from contenders, and British Hurricane look pretty damn good. So having that pre-established synergy is huge. Hoffy and Molg, I don't know how to say his Molfy's the diva player you see on the screen. I don't know how to say that name. He sounds like an orc from Lord of the Rings. They're pre-built. That's a big thing. The support line, Reapa was a support on the LA Gladiators, I believe in season 2. He just never played over Big Goose and Chaz, but he was recruited for them. Kellex is this is his 4th season in the Overwatch. He was on Toronto for like 10 weeks last year, and then he retired before he said, you know what, I think I just want to be away from Toronto, and he went to British Hurricane and then went on a crazy winning streak. Kellex is very good. Not a lot of people remember this, but Kellex was a season 1 member of the Boston Uprising, and he was recruited by Krusty, who was the head coach of San Francisco. Of all the support players Krusty could have put together, he was like, you know what, Kellex is the guy. And in season 1, Boston Uprising in stage 3, they had the undefeated stage in stage 3, and I think Kellex was a decent part of that. If he's not the most mechanically gifted support player, I think he'll do a lot for their synergy. And then for their DPS players, they picked up Shax and Blase. I mean, that combo's gonna be fine, even if they're just mediocre. Shax is pretty good. Blase, we'll see about that. But even if they're just mediocre, their core roles, I think DPS is interchangeable. But I think for support and the tanks, since their core is so strong, they're going to be pretty damn good. And if they don't have to worry about team synergy, they can focus on the mechanics, which is kind of the opposite of most other teams. Most teams have to work on learning how to play together before they can focus on just their individual prowess. But London Spitfire already have that synergy. So like they have less things to practice, which in the long run, if they have their synergy down week 1, by the end of the season, if they spend their time right and really study the meta, and they're going to be like, I think they could be a sleeper team for sure. Not championship winning. I'm not saying they're going to like come out and win everything, but I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. And I think any team who thinks that they're an easy sweep just because they're just a contenders team, they might be in for a pretty nasty upset. So consider them one of my big sleepers. My next preview is what I think will be the most interesting. It may not be the best in terms of the best Overwatch, but I think in terms of the most interesting matches of the entire weekend, it's going to be an APAC match. Actually, it's going to be the Chengdu Hunters versus the New York Excelsior. Chengdu coming off a 2-0 weekend where they beat the LA Valiant 3-1 and the Shanghai Dragons 3-0, which I'll tell you this, no one in their right fucking mind would ever predict that. So it's going to be a really interesting case of a team who's riding high versus a team that has a lot to prove, which is a surprise for New York. In my opening statement, I want to talk about New York here. In my opening statement, I talked about how players are leaving the comfort zones, and this is their year to prove if they're worth the money that they ask for. Every player really is focused on their value. How valuable am I? And for most GMs, that's what they think. They're like, who can we not get rid of, and who is interchangeable? And New York, interestingly enough, I don't think it's a surprise, but I find it interesting that New York decided Jonak was the player they want to build around. I feel like Jonak was the icing on the cake and not the bread, not the center of the cake in the first few seasons. They just happened to know that he was really good at Zenyatta, so they built the team around him. But I never felt like he was I get it, he was the MVP, and they put everything around him. But he got so many resources back then that I don't know if they can convince four new people on their roster to play that same style. So that's Jonak's biggest question this season: is he the guy? Is he the leader? He's a good player. He's the flashy guy that makes the big plays, but is he the guy? Can he wrangle together? Can he wrangle his new teammates? Can he teach them? There's that photo on Twitter right now circulating of everyone surrounding by him. That's a PR play. That's very much planned by the New York media team, or at least it feels that way. It seems very much planned that they're showing an image of Jonak by himself, no sleeves, looking swole. He's just sitting there and he's looking there. And he's like, we're in the lab and I'm running this session. I think it's going to be very interesting. And I think it's going to be tough because on the opposite end, Chengdu, they bring in their new main tank, Gaga. That dude looks absolutely ridiculous. He just ran circles around him. And, with these main tank changes, I think it's going to be, with two teams facing off against each other, Chengdu and New York, with two new main tanks, I think it's going to be a big test of what the coaching staff is like, and what the veteran presence in the teams can be. Because it's like Jonak literally has been with Mono. He's been with Mono his entire career, and Sabiolbi his entire career up until now, which means that a lot of the brunt of the leadership and the pacing didn't really fall to Jonak. And I'm not in their comms, but if I remember right, Jonak wasn't really the person making those team-based decisions. So it's gonna be a lot of tests of trust between teammates. And a lot of people have been high on New York. They said their scrim bucks have been pretty good. They had that open scrim versus Guangzhou where they looked to be pretty good against Guangzhou. But after watching week 1, Guangzhou looked pretty bad to me, to be completely honest. I really didn't like the direction they're going. So New York, Chengdu, it's going to be so interesting. I think Chengdu is riding a little too high. Shanghai, I think Shanghai lost it more than Chengdu won it. Shanghai just looked ill-prepared. We all that's the thing. We all know they're all incredibly gifted individual players. It's just the team thing. They were Shanghai was swapping off comps, and I think Chengdu came in prepared, which is something to take note and to be appreciated. But I think if they run against a good team that also has the same understanding of the meta like they do, and not kind of a dumpster fire that was Shanghai in week 1, I think they're gonna be in for a little bit more a bigger challenge. And I think New York knows they have a lot to prove. They kind of, they're in APAC now, but New York has a little bit of that New York-ish, where they're like, you know what, like we're out here, we're walking here. We're walking in Korea now, and we're gonna make sure that we make our mainstay, make our footprint, as you will, in the APAC region. New York will. So, Jonak. Let's see. Look, is Jonak the main storyline here, or I want to watch Yakpung. Yakpung on NYXL. Yakpung was one of the hottest kids to come out of Contenders into season 2, and he had a lot of people who were talking good about him back in when he was on Toronto at the start, and then that whole team just imploded. But Yakpung taken a year in Contenders to grind, and now NYXL decided to bring him back after seeing what's happened to him in the past few seasons. I think it says a lot about his talent, and he was really good on Winston. And it seems like everyone's pretty much hard locking the double bubble or hack or Winston and Sombra gameplay meta. So we'll see what's going to happen in that match, because Jesus, that's going to be. I need to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch it. I hope I can, because that one's going to be my most interesting game of the week. Okay, last game I want to talk about: Washington Justice versus Dallas Fuel on Saturday. I want to talk about the Washington Justice, because Jesus, everyone's so amped to see them. People have them in their top 4. It's going to be really exciting to watch. And I personally, I don't want to make any judgment. I don't have stats on them yet to prove anything. But damn, I just want to say this: when you watch the playoffs last year, if you look at the regular season record of Washington last year, they were like 4-17, or however the math works with however many games they had. 4-17, and then all of a sudden in the playoffs they make a ridiculous run, an absolutely stupid run, where people were legitimately scared of Washington, literally just because they picked up Decay, who got to play Zarya all in the playoffs last year. I think that what that means to say is their team is pretty individually talented. And this was just last year. The team was individually talented, and all they needed was to settle into a meta that was good for them, which means that the coaching was able to identify that and really find a way to take advantage of it. Which means that now that they've had a year, because Washington, they had Corey and Stratus leave last year. Their team kind of imploded once we went to work from home. That was really unfortunate, and they had half a season to rebuild. Now that they've had a full off season and they've picked up the players that they picked up, I think Washington Justice, now that they know what they're going into the season with and have built around that, they're going to be absolutely insane. Their playoff run was legitimately scary last season. It was worrisome to where you almost question the competitive integrity of the Overwatch League in general. I'll just be honest. And now it's like, if you look at their new roster. They kept Decay, which is a big signing. We have Jerry from Boston, who statistically was absolutely insane despite Boston's lack of results, obviously. Closer is a support player for Washington Justice now. I think he's going to be way better than people think. People don't remember he's a 4-season veteran member. He was in London Spitfire when they won the championship in season 1. He just wasn't a starter because Nuss started over him, but he was still good and got his own playtime. And he was a hot commodity when Dallas picked him up in season 2. Envy is known for having enough money to buy players, so you'd like to imagine that Closer was offered other teams, but he went with the highest paying team in Dallas Fuel in season 2, and he stuck it out with 2 seasons with them, and now he's on an actual good team with proper management. He followed Decay over there, and I'm sure Decay probably talked about the players he liked playing with, and he probably liked playing with Closer because they had time in Dallas together. So he probably brought them over. So something about Washington, it's Custa was saying it on his stream. I can see it. I want to see it happen in real life. I want to see a proof. But I think Washington versus Dallas Fuel, I think Washington's going to beat him pretty hard. And I think this is going to be a magical moment to see the debut of a historically pretty trash franchise. They finally found they have their new, or not their new, but they have their GM Pre and their coach Supreme. I think they finally found a core of players that they can build around, and a belief in their system. I like watch Pre in his social media and his like appearances in various YouTube videos and stuff. Their GM is pretty entertaining, and he seems like a pretty smart guy to know what he's doing in terms of the management side. So Washington Justice, be scared, because justice is about to be served. It's gonna be crazy. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. That's gonna be it for my week 2 predictions. Really hope my picks get better. Sorry if I cut this video a little short. My head's kind of swimming. I had the COVID, my first shot of the COVID vaccine like 13 hours ago, and it's like super late. It's like midnight right now when I'm recording this. But I want to make sure I get it out before the games start in 12 hours. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you do your pick and predictions if you're watching this before the games start. It's gonna be an absolutely wild game, and I cannot wait for next week, next Monday, for me to talk about what's gonna happen. And then I also want to do some more content review of some more strategy-based content. I want to talk about how the Houston Outlaws coaching staff really made an incredible decision focusing on Hanzo in their comps against the San Francisco Shock. It was really genius. So yeah, it's gonna be a great weekend, and I hope everyone has a good one and good luck this week. I hope your team wins, but I'm hoping that Washington Justice Shreds, and cross some fingers, LA Gladiators, they finally give us a little glimpse of what we all want them to be. So have a good night, everyone, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.